29th to order. As required by open meeting law, we are informing you that we will be video, audio taping, as well as live broadcasting this public meeting. In addition, anyone in the audience wishing to video or audio tape must notify the chairman now. Hearing no one, please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Weekly briefing.
I'll go quick. Carolyn Carey, the Community Center Director. I just wanted to inform you that the resurfacing of the gym floor is ongoing, but we are on time, and we do anticipate that we will be open as we predicted on June 8th. So I just wanted to let everyone know we're getting a lot of phone calls, and we have made arrangements for a lot of the people to be using the Cultural Center gym during this time. And the next thing I wanted to just let you know, and I'm very glad Janelle's here, that the Cultural Center has teamed up with the Harwich Elementary School, and we'll be doing some lessons over there on World Ocean Day. So the 6 kindergarten classes will be going over on June 6th, June 7th, and June 8th, 2 classes each day, and we have a whole lesson plan for them. So we're excited to bring that educational component to the Cultural Center as well. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else for weekly briefing?
Good evening, Lieutenant Considine. Just wanted to bring the attention that we had a great training today. Our Emergency Operations Center at the Public Safety Building was open today, luckily for training. Lee Culver and the Emergency Management Director put on a training for us for a tabletop exercise regarding a hurricane hitting us. And there were 3 different scenarios that we accomplished within the 4 hours of training. It was great because not only were members of public safety there, town administrator was there, Chamber of Commerce, department heads, department employees, as well as key stakeholders in the community were all there today to go through this. Even better, Jake Nickerson, who is a senior at Mass Maritime Academy, son of Chris Nickerson from our highway department, put on this whole presentation for us and put this all together as part of his senior project. So as Lee Culver said, this would have cost us a lot of money if we had to outsource this and do it that way. Jake did a fabulous job, and I just wanted to thank him for that.
Great. Thank you, Lieutenant. Anyone else for weekly briefing? Public comment announcement?
Cindy Williams, Executive Director of the Harwich Chamber. Just wanted to remind everyone out there that June 1st is the application deadline for the Big Fix. I've had a few people into my office to help them fill out the application. I will be there all day tomorrow, 9 to 4, to assist. So please come on in. We'll get them filled out and then get them to the Housing Assistance Corporation. And if there is anyone listening that would like to be a team leader or a sponsor, also contact me on that as well.
Thank you, Cindy.
Good evening. Janelle Brown, citizen. It's nice to be on this side. I've had a very busy week since I vacated the Board of Selectmen. Back in April, actually, I became aware that there is no funding source for fundraising for 7th graders who want to go on the class trip to Washington, D.C. Scott Carpenter did write about this trip in that letter that he put into, or Chris put, whoever put, into our warrant this year. So perhaps people don't realize that it is not a budget item. It is not funded by the school. There also is no fundraising mechanism. And so I met with the school council at Monomoy Regional Middle School, whose position is they do not want to do fundraising. So they said to me, if you want to form your own nonprofit organization, we would suggest you do that. So I did. With the help of 9 community members, both in Harwich and Chatham, I filed articles of incorporation last week and got an EIN number The name of the organization is Monomoy Equitable Learning Foundation, or Monomoy ELF. And I'm making this announcement today because I am looking for support from the community. I don't think it's fair that children of parents with less privilege socioeconomically don't have the opportunity to attend this trip. Last year it was $800 plus spending money, maybe around $1,000 per family to send a child. That's a lot of money. This year, coming up for the next school year, usually we're given a year to raise that money as a family. We only have 6 months. The trip was switched to November instead of next April. So that was the haste in forming this organization, and over the summer I will be working diligently to help raise these funds. And if anybody in the community would like to get involved, I have an email, monomoyelf@gmail at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Janelle. Anyone else, public comment and announcement? Consent agenda, please.
Mr. Chair, I move the following consent agenda items. A, approve minutes for April 23, 2018 regular meeting. 2, April 30, 2018 regular meeting. B, approve request by school to waive town vendor's license requirement to sell popcorn at 517 Route 28 during 2018 Music in the Port events. C, approve new common victor application for Cape Side Kitchen Incorporated. D, approve James Donovan as Conservation Commission's representative to Real Estate and Open Space Committee. E, accept resignation of Cynthia Nunes from the Treasure Chest Committee.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Actually, I did have a
Oh,
comment.
go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, it is Vittles. Vittler. Thank you.
you're welcome.
We'll do that again. All in favor? Aye. Thanks.
Unanimous.
New business, confirm appointment of new Assistant Town Administrator Evan Melillo as recommended. Chris, do you want to
You
make the
said that
introduction?
perfectly.
I asked him.
He's here in the crowd if you want to have him come up. What I'd like to do is just kind of go over the process. We posted the ad and also put it into the Beacon, the MMA's material. We did put it out as kind of as wide as we could, if you would, related to the Beacon certainly covers. We had 52 applicants. We had, the way the process works, just for folks at home, we had 5 people that independently looked at the applicants. They picked the top 3 and then the other ones that they may consider. And we sat down to go through who was on the list, who received more than one vote, if you would. And we selected 7 people to interview. Obviously, Evan was one out of the 7. One of them did withdraw as part of the process, which is fairly typical. And then we conducted the interviews. And I think it's safe to say that in the initial review, Evan received a favorable vote of one of the top 3 from all 5 of the interview folks, and then was also the top candidate after the actual interviews were done. Unfortunately, Julie did participate in the process, and she
You don't
was
mean it quite like that.
obviously.
Unfortunately, she
Well,
participated.
she's not here to speak for herself, is more the comment. But Evan comes to us from the town of Middleborough, in which he was the assistant to the town manager.
Correct.
Which ironically, when I started off, I think that was one of the first titles I had, was assistant to the, in my case, it was town coordinator, way back when. So I don't know if any board member, or maybe give Evan an opportunity to say a few words of
Yeah.
his experience. And
Just like to introduce yourself.
Sure. So, board members, thank you for having me tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to serve the town. You know, this position was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. I have, so professionally, I have a master's in public administration, and I have 5 years of municipal experience and increasing responsibilities. So as he mentioned, I was working directly for the town manager.
Great, thank you. Don, any questions?
No.
Ed?
No.
Larry?
No, welcome.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Can I-
you.
Can I get a motion?
Yes. I move that we confirm the appointment of Evan Mulillo. To the
Malillo. Yep, you got it.
Okay. To the Assistant Town Administrator's post.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, request by Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance to send proposed comment letter to New England Fishery Management Council. Welcome.
Hello. It's nice to see some familiar faces again. As you might remember, we were here last fall. The information in our presentation since then hasn't changed a significant amount, so I won't reiterate anything other than just my one-sentence summary, which is that as we've continued throughout the past 6 or 7 months, the midwater trawling method of fishing has not changed. They continue to affect the ecosystem in negative ways through their damaging fishing processes. But what has changed is an update on the process and where we're at. So since our last visit here in December, the council voted to move Amendment 8, which is the amendment that has the midwater trawl buffer zone in it, out for public comment and let the public weigh in on their preferred alternative for selection. So that means that the previous letter of support that you gave last fall, it worked. They wanted to hear from the communities as to what option they thought was best, which is great. And throughout the winter and spring, the council and NOAA have been developing a draft EIS, which they put out for public consumption about a month ago. And they instated their public comment period around about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So what's happening now is that there's a series of public comments happening throughout the Northeast, ranging all the way from Maine down to Rhode Island, and they will be happening in Chatham on June 19th. However, you can also submit letters of support for a specific alternative for that amendment. The one in Chatham, just for any members of the public that are listening and might want to attend, is June 19th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the community center. We highly encourage anyone who wants to even just sit in to attend. It'd be great to have a lot of our community members showing their support for this initiative that has been going on for so many years. The comment period officially ends on 25 June. And then after that, the council will make their final decision at their September meeting in Plymouth. So we're looking to have a lot of community support between now and then. But before I get there, just a couple other quick updates is that as the spring has progressed, the council and the agency have been working on their stock assessment, and some of the preliminary work is showing that herring are not at the robust levels that we previously believed that they were. So that is slightly bad news. However, it does strengthen our resolve to move harmful vessels fishing way farther offshore. So I submitted a sample letter to Anne about 2 weeks ago. So I thank her for turning this around so quickly. And it basically supports what we believe is the absolute bare minimum we think that these vessels should move farther offshore. And that's year-round, which is very important. We don't want them coming in for even a month at a time. And also a minimum of 12 nautical miles, but also it could go the whole way out to 50. There are alternatives that include that. So that is what we are here to ask, is that we would greatly appreciate your continued support.
Great, thank you. Don, questions?
No, I'll just make comment later.
Okay. Ed?
I have a related question. Have you and Seth decided who's going to present next week?
So I will definitely be there, and Seth is working on his schedule right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Larry?
It seems so logical that we supported it the last time you were here. I guess my question is who's the opposition to this?
The opposition to this has been the midwater trawl fleet, which fishes for both herring and mackerel. We don't touch too much on the mackerel situation, but worth mentioning also is that within just a few weeks of their opening this year, they reached their river herring and shad catch caps. They exceeded it vastly and were essentially closed. So for the entire 11 and a half months out of this calendar year, they are prohibited from fishing for most areas near shore for mackerel.
No, that's it. Thank you.
What's that? Can I get a motion?
I move that we support the letter as presented. No, that should be enough.
Yeah, second.
Moved and seconded to support. Any discussion? Don?
Yeah, I think we've had a fairly long-standing history in trying to protect herring population. We went against the state, what was it, 15 or 16 years ago, and closed down the runs because we were afraid that we were heading towards a catastrophe. So it's something that we got to keep battling at if we want to save this.
And just to add a little bit to the story, when we closed the run, the state said we didn't have the right to do that. However, we pulled out our original charter, which granted us the ownership of the herring run in Harwich, and went to court. And several years later, the Supreme Judicial Court found that Harwich, as many other towns, coastal towns in Massachusetts, do have control over their herring fishery. And of course, by that time, they had finally reached the same conclusion and had closed the herring fishery statewide. But it was I think, it sort of explains the importance of keeping that traditional last article alive and well in our town meetings.
That and the fact that Sid Ziegler threatened to send the police there and repel the state people.
But also, you'll be receiving a notice of the next Selectmen Counselors Association. Amanda and some other folks from Fisheries are going to be doing a presentation on fisheries issues.
Great.
We'll be talking more than just herring there. This is just one of many things that we engage in, so.
Great.
But thank you again for your support, and we updated our information to include some facts about public hearings and so forth that I'll leave for any members of the public that are interested.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is request to close section of Joe Lincoln Road for family event on June 23rd from 12:30 to 6. Chris?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's here from the applicant. We did receive a request. Obviously, any public way is under the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen as roadway commissioners, and we have received a request to close a section of Joe Lincoln Road, just for folks at home on the evening, for a family event on June 23rd from 12:30 p.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. This was reviewed by Police and Fire and approved as not being a detriment to public interest, so obviously I would recommend approval of that based upon the no negative comments back.
Okay. Questions, Don? Ed? Larry?
No, fire and police, I approve it. I'm okay with it.
Can I get a motion?
I move that we accept the request of the letter of May 10th, 2018, as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Request for a one-day beer and wine license for Paul Vardagas for event at Pilgrim Congregational Church, June 9th, 2018. Any discussion on this? Don?
Nope, but I appreciate that it's not on the consent agenda.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Ed?
No.
Larry? Can I get a motion?
Move we approve the request for a one-day beer and wine license for Pilgrim Church on, where's the date?
June 9th,
June 9th,
from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
from 6 to 9.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Request from Chief Gilmet to approve Lieutenant Considine's proposal for no parking zone at Cross Street and Route 28, including related signage and creation of parking spaces on Cross Street.
We've been so quiet, I feel we should discuss this for a while.
Good evening again, Lieutenant Considine again. Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I'd just like to give a brief description of what the issues are and what we're proposing for your review. Over the last few years, I know parking in Harwich Port has been on the topic of this board and just general discussion for a number of weeks. Over the last number of years, but especially last summer, we've had some major issues with parking down there, parking in spots that are creating hazardous situations. So prior to the busy season, we're trying to identify those and try to fix those, hopefully for good, and just make people aware of where not to park. In my packet, I've describe 3 specific areas that I just want to quickly review. The first one is Cross Street at Route 28. Our current parking rules and regulations in town prohibit any vehicles from parking within 20 feet of an intersecting way. That's on the books, that's on our parking tickets. The purpose of that is to allow vehicles from the main road to turn onto a side street. And if there's somebody else coming, it allows you to kind of pull over and let that car out. So it gives that 20-feet buffer zone to kind of pull in, especially if the road's narrow. That's very similar to Cross Street and Route 28. However, that road presents a particular issue of more so of safety, and I'm sure many of you have seen that, not only during, especially the music and the port nights, but last summer almost every day because of the beach parking situation with parking on our public ways. What's happening is when vehicles park within 20 feet of an intersecting way, especially at this location, they're essentially parking on the sidewalk on Route 28. And we've been down there on complaints. We've issued warnings because there are no signs posted, no parking here to corner. And we've actually physically seen people walk with strollers or with families or by themselves onto Route 28 because the sidewalk is blocked. So that's obviously a separate violation, but it's all contingent upon that corner. What we're requesting there is, it's already an existing no parking zone. What we're simply asking is for 2 signs to be placed there on each side of the roadway, so one next to George's Pizza and one next to the real estate office, no parking here to corner. That way, that will at least warn the motorists that they can't park there, and it will give us a little more teeth to enforce what we already have on the books. I'm never a proponent of issuing a citation or a violation if something really isn't posted that somebody may not know about. So that will go a long way to warn the motorists and keep vehicles out of there. So that's the first one at Cross Street and 28. And just, I want to note that I have spoken to both the owner of George's Pizza and Mike Ulrich from the real estate office, who are in support of this. And the reason why I spoke to them, they're the immediate abutters, but people use Cross Street to park for their businesses. So I felt it was right to reach out to them. And all these, I've also reached out to Cindy at the Chamber to speak at length to her about these issues as well. The second one, and this is a result of Harwich Port being a great place and great things that we're doing and the Chamber is doing and the businesses are doing. This second one is the driveway leaving Schoolhouse parking lot going onto Pleasant Street. That's a really narrow driveway. I think the creation of those spots in the middle will help, but I think we're still going to be in a position this summer, not only again on Wednesday nights, but last year it was every single day of the week during the day with beach parking in that parking lot. Vehicles are parking on both sides of that driveway, and I've spoken to Chief Clark, and we've both agreed that a fire truck will definitely not be able to get down there, nor an ambulance, and for that matter, not even a sedan police car can travel down there, you know, not only at night, but now during the day. So what we're asking there is to authorize your approval for no parking signs on both sides of that roadway. We were forced last summer, and you've probably noticed, that we put up the temporary orange Harwich Police no parking signs. That was to take care of the quick issue we realized last year, that we had vehicles parking there and vehicles not being able to get out of that parking lot nor into that parking lot. So that's the second issue that we've identified. The third issue was in front of, on Cross Street again, 2-4 Cross Street. Rebecca Arnsfeld is here. She's the business owner there. She contacted the police department. I spoke to her along the same time that I was doing this, and the problem we're having there is, again, beach people, others will park there all day on Cross Street and just leave. Rebecca reached out to us to see what we can help her out with for business parking. Not only that, but her driveway gets blocked by vehicles. So this third point here on Cross Street is to request 1 or 2 two-hour parking limit signs in front of 2-4 Cross Street. That will at least hopefully alert motorists to, oh, you know, there's a business here, I shouldn't be parking here. I think it will help not only Rebecca, but George's Pizza and some of the nearby businesses down there. And with that, what we would talk to the highway department with is starting next to George's Pizza on the west side of Cross Street, working up past Rebecca's shop at 2-4 Cross Street, and stopping there is just making parking lines so we can designate where the parking spots are on Cross Street in that business section there. That will go a long way, and Mike Ulrich agrees on this, that will go a long way to show people where the parking spots are, similar to out here in Harwich Center. And that will, without a doubt in my mind, hopefully help out with blocking the private driveways on Cross Street that are an issue in the summer. For you reviewing the packet, I did put in there a parking order rules and regs that I found that was adopted on June 5th, 1972 by the Board of Selectmen. And at that time, they actually they did prohibit parking on the west side of Cross Street from Route 28, 109 feet, which is just to the corner of 2-4 Cross Street. So clearly back then, they had the same parking issues. By no means am I advocating that we go back to that and lose more spots in Harwich Port. By putting that 20 buffer zone in there, we'll lose 2 spots, but that's 2 spots that aren't even technically on the books right now. So we're not losing any spots, we're just asking for some assistance with some parking signs to help out down there.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Questions, Don? Ed?
Do we need to amend our parking orders to put this into?
So what I did not find in the 1972 document, I never found a document in our records, and they're 4 3-inch binders. I never found a document that took away that parking zone in 1972. So I'm not sure, this will be something new, but I didn't see anything for that 109 feet.
Yeah, just in my experience, I believe it's under the state statute, under 85, Board of Selectmen can set the parking regulations, but in other communities, when I've done this, you have to have a map, you have to show people what you're doing, it has to be kind of publicized, and then the board can vote to do that. I think we should do the same thing here. I will go and update and find the regulations. I can't believe I've been here almost 5 years and we haven't had this come up yet. But in my experience, I believe under state statute, we are required to do that. In the interim, though, for some of the requests, certainly the 20-foot, that's already on the books, that is state law. We can post that. That's just an enforcement of an existing law, so that I don't believe is of issue. Probably another year of the temporary no parking for the schoolhouse lot, and then the request would have to be something on a temporary nature for the business if you wanted to recommend something different there until we can get the necessary posting done for the update to the rules and regulations.
We certainly can make a temporary decision tonight for the summer.
Yeah, I believe that under the selectmen as road commissioners, you could do something temporary to formally have it on the books. You do have to change the rules and regs, traffic rules and regs.
Okay.
No, I can appreciate that there's an issue. It is a tight corner anyway, and then have cars there, it's difficult, so no, I'd be in favor of that.
I'm in favor. A couple related questions. One is we were talking, I think, last week about adding some more parking spaces on schoolhouse. Does this affect that discussion at all, what you're?
No, and this driveway leading will not change even if something is done in that area. And I don't think the addition of any spots will take this problem away. I think if we add 50 more spots down there, we're still going to have these specific issues there.
Do you have a sense of How much of the parking is people taking advantage of that parking to walk to the beach?
As far as Cross Street goes, and I've spoken to Rebecca about this, without a doubt, in front of those areas, a little further up near her shop, it's definitely beach traffic. From her shop down south to the corner, it's a lot of people just running in for pizza at the pizza shop and coming out and leaving. As far as Schoolhouse Lot goes, just from what I observed last year, sitting down there for some time, it's definitely beach.
I know we want to take this step. I always have people, have had in the past, people concerned about the number of folks that drop people off at the beach and then come back and park. And, you know, that drives discussion. Do we want to have some type of, you know, band or something for beach use, which we don't want to get into, but it's going to be a continuing discussion, I think.
I do think, just to that point, Mr. Chairman, I've had issues in other communities that I worked where the downtown business owners wanted to make sure there was turnover so people can go in and out. And certainly you can't ban one group or, you know, allow one group. So what we did was we established areas where if a business had a turnover for an hour or two, then we would do 2-hour parking. So that discourages somebody that's going to park there for the beach.
And that make a lot of sense for
And
us to consider.
have areas where it's okay to then allow for all-day parking.
Good.
Cindy?
One of the things, Larry, to that point, the volunteers in the visitor center in the past have said that that is, you know, something that they can do is, you know, park there. But I have already had meetings with our volunteers. That's not going to be in their little spiel that they get to give to people. So we're not encouraging it this year because of that. One thing that I wanted to find out too, and Kevin and I have talked about this, about possibly, and I don't know that you can, because we want to say warm and friendly, as our logo, our tagline is, but maybe putting that it will be monitored. You know, that parking down there is for the restaurants, the retail. People, you know, we sell beach stickers. They can go to any one of our 21 beaches and ponds that we have in Harwich. So the chamber, you know, and the visitor center isn't going to encourage it like they have in the past, that they can park there for beaches.
Let me suggest a follow-up, Cindy and Chris, and, you know, what our plan would be to maybe go forward, whether it's that education or this timed turnover so that it doesn't tie up the parking all. Because it's getting worse. It's getting busier every summer, I think.
If this weekend was any indication of how great the summer's going to be, it's going to be fabulous.
I said that wrong. It's getting better. We're getting more and more people. But it's getting
I'm always half full, Larry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ed.
Well, going forward, you know, obviously parking will become more and more of a problem. You know, and the question is, where in the area do you find additional parking? Well, as we finish our project at Saquatucket Harbor, we have a fairly substantial parking lot up Bank Street that you could run a shuttle from. Something to look at.
What's that? Motion? Don?
I motion that we give temporary authority for the police department to implement the 4 recommendations contained in Lieutenant Considine's letter of May 17th, subject to advertising and a permanent solution.
Yeah, the only, if I could, just offer, the 20-foot is already on the book, so that can just be done. That's administrative, but the other ones would need to be temporary.
Okay,
in
well,
accordance
the
with
20-foot we'll keep in the motion is accept that permanently, and the other 3 to temporarily grant authority, subject to hearing.
Thank you. Moved in second. Any discussion?
Well,
Ed?
the obvious thing before we, at the end of the summer, bring it back to go through the process to make these changes permanently, we can look at how the summer went, and we may bring it back in a little bit different form.
Absolutely. My only question would be, do you want the signs from the highway department posted in these temporary locations as opposed to our temporary orange signs? Is that okay?
I do. Go ahead.
I not only think you should do that, but there's a whole heck of a lot of signs out there that were put up in past years that had no hearing, no selectmen approval, and people believe that that's actually a no parking zone. I don't think people are going to believe with a paper sign that it's no parking. So I would highly recommend you put permanent signs up that aren't really permanent.
Yeah.
Great.
Don, just a question before we go to vote. Is that your signature from 1972?
No, I was only 8 years old.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's Don
Thank you.
Griffin,
Oh, all right.
The wrong Don.
whose room we're sitting in.
Yeah, right?
It looks like his signature.
I saw that too.
It's the other- it's the other
Department reports, or town administrator's report, I should say. Chris?
Just on a couple things, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually see, if I did invite the gentleman from, we had it on the consent agenda from Cape Side Kitchen to at least introduce himself to the community. So with the board's indulgence, if you would,
Sure.
if you would be willing to let them.
Welcome.
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate the offer to come up and introduce myself and our new business, Cape Side Kitchen. We're excited to be part of the community. We love what we do, and we're excited meeting all the new people this past week, and different businesses and the public, and we welcome anybody to come by and say hello and get to know us, and we're looking forward to meeting you as well, so thank you.
Ed?
Yeah, I showed up on Saturday at
Yeah.
2:30, according to Cindy's directions for the
Oh,
open
right,
day,
right.
that I hadn't gotten word had been canceled
Sure.
because you were concerned of the weekend turnout, which
Sure.
turned out that you were probably not in the best shape by 2 o'clock to have
Right,
the grand
right.
opening ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful weekend. It was a great indication of what the summer is going to look like for the community. You know, we're a new business, and it was exciting and scary at the same time. But we pulled together as a team, and we pulled it off. So yeah, we're excited.
Great. Don?
Yeah, just giving you a caution here. You do realize you're going to be doomed for the next 10 to 15 years of people giving directions that you turn right at the place that used to be Bonet's.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. We've gotten that a few times. So.
Julie?
It's Cape Cod.
No, I'd just like to say welcome, and I wish you the best of luck, and it's great to have another breakfast place in town again, so thank you.
Larry?
Right.
I need to eat there yet.
It's across the street.
What's that?
I need to give you some business. I
Oh,
haven't-
sure. Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank you for the indulgence. Just a couple things. I do wish to thank Evan. I'm happy to have him on board. You know, it's been a little bit tough operating kind of short-staffed. He did talk to his boss in Middleborough. He's coming early, so he will be on the books starting with us on June 4th. So I'm happy to have that assistance. Some of the things that we'll have him work on, obviously, is we have a fair amount of town meeting wrap-up to do. We will be looking at updating procurement. That's something that I think we need to do, and having a fresh set of eyes look at something isn't necessarily a bad thing. And then we do have a fair amount of HR elements that we will be continuing to address. With that being said, Bob Lawton, I just again want to kind of publicly thank him. I mean, boy, here's a guy that you could just pick up the phone, and he's more than willing to help and do what he could do to help a community. And just wish to thank him. We do intend on, or I intend on, having a little bit of overlap. Probably have Bob stay on for a week or two to kind of make sure. Bob's great at doing transitions. Ironically, when I started, Bob was the interim. So he had the transition documents ready for me to go when I started. So he's been down this road several times. We'll keep him on for a couple weeks just to allow for that transition, for him to finish up any projects that he had started. Also, we did go through at the last department heads meeting, in which we went over all the town meeting actions and did do some preliminary assignment of to the different department heads of which ones that we want to work on and focus on. So we will put together some kind of plan for the workload for this year to implement what town meeting approved at this most recent town meeting. And that concludes my comments this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Selectmen's report.
Can we go before?
What's that?
Can we look at the department reports
Sure.
for a second?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm just curious through you, Mr. Chair. one that has to do with the cemetery administrator, working on a human resource manual. Was that a project that you assigned?
No.
Okay, because it was my understanding these reports were like to stick to how they spent their time during the week in furtherance of their duties for departments. It's just a comment.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. I have a few questions, comments regarding the departmental reports. And that was actually first on my list because they come up first. I think, Chris, we'd asked you and Bob Lawton to put together, an organizational with the position descriptions. Is this what this does? Does this mean this is done and we can circulate it, or this is something else?
Yeah, no, this is actually something else. And just, we have had other department heads, the police chief and John Rendon, the harbor master, went through the Suffolk program. Sometimes as part of their projects, they will ask for public information, information from the town. I assumed that Robin, I don't know why she put it in the weekly report, in her weekly report for this, because really what she made a request of was Bob Lawton, and he was following up on work that was being done by Charlene to do a employee manual. So it's that employee manual that she had asked for a copy of. And then we do have electronically job descriptions that when we reach agreement with the HEA, we do have a list of several job descriptions, and anytime we update job descriptions, we have that electronically. It was kind of my information that she just needed it for a report that she was submitting as part of the Suffolk program.
Yeah, I didn't mean this as a negative. I read this as a positive, that
Yeah,
she may have been doing the stuff that we've been asking for in working with Bob Lawton to, organize and how they relate to each other. But if
I
it's
think
not,
what we
it's
can
not.
do, now that you say that, Selectman Valentine, I think we probably should have a place on the website for if you want to access. It's a lot of material. If you think about it, it's probably well over 100 job descriptions in town, and probably 3 pages, 4 pages each. We can find a way to have, where the selectmen can look at that and see that. We have most of it electronically.
And it's basically there, so you don't bury people, and I only finished that statement, but, so they're related, so it makes sense.
Yes.
But thank you. Mr. Chair, if I have a couple other on departmental. I wanted to congratulate Robin on getting her certificate, by the way,
Yes.
in my notes here. Couple comments on the DPW report. One is, I've had some neighbors tell me how great the cemetery looks, how well it's maintained this year. Not only did they mow, but they've cleaned away the clutter, the leaves and stuff, and so it's spectacular. On the Saugatuck Harbor report, says they're doing shed repairs. That one caught me off guard. What repairs are they doing to what sheds are they to repair?
I'll have to check. I don't,
I think it's the watershed stuff, isn't it, on the?
I know we have the fisherman sheds at Witchmere.
At Witchmere, that's what I thought of first. Maybe that's a misprint. Maybe they meant Witchmere rather
Yeah,
than.
I'll double check,
You
'cause
double check that.
I thought it
Okay.
was.
The planning has signed off on it, on the Acilla. Does that mean that's working now as we want it to, or is that, what's that mean, it was signed off on? Well, it's a
But-
fair question.
Yeah, no, it is a fair question. Acela is the best way to visualize that is it's a process. We probably have 300, 400 permits that could theoretically go into Acela and be used, licenses and permits. We have been having it go into places for the building department, express permits, as a for instance. That has been up and operational and functioning. We have it in the Conservation Commission, so some of the permits that people apply can do that. I believe what's being referenced there is some of the planning board, the easier permits for people to go online and do it, have been completed. So we have been, it's a process where we're bringing more and more permits online.
So the sign-off is more of an internal sign-off that's
Just for, I
usable,
believe that's just
not-
for her
not
planning
related
board
to-
ones.
to Acilla contracts or.
Right. So someone's not gonna be, just for the public's benefit, someone's not gonna be able to submit for a subdivision and do that through an express permit. There's still gonna be things that have to be done, you know, coming into the office and meeting
Okay.
with people.
And are we still working with the county on this then?
Yeah, actually, the county has been supportive, and really the best news, we do have quarterly meetings, is Berkshire Hathaway actually bought the Acela folks, and in that, they have assigned a, careful, I guess how I say this, a more competent management team to be able to address some of the implementation issues we've been having and to actually make them functional.
Put
I
that
just
very
have two
nicely.
more comments,
Doesn't always happen.
questions. One is the treasurer report, where you list the, collections and disbursements.
Mhm.
Could you ask it to put that into context, so we could have a running, how's that compare to last year or something? Because when you just look at that number by itself, unless you go back through the records, it has no meaning. So, just put in context some way so we know we're up or down from last month or last
We
year.
do have some of that in the monthly reports, though, that we provide, the last year comparisons.
I know you
are
have a
in-
variable, but when it comes in the week, I look at it and I don't know how to,
Okay.
And lastly, I appreciate putting together action plans and the town meeting report. I think that's something we need to come back to the board and look at those action plans. Not to beat a dead horse, I'm specifically interested in the wastewater plans because now really we need to double down on our communication, our PR, how we're going to manage that and going forward so we don't lose that momentum. So that I'm really anxious to get some steps going forward on.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah, well, I guess Larry's comment on the Acela program, when I read that, the end of the town planner's report, in the bullet before, she indicates she was meeting with others, including butters, realtors at the window to answer questions and review pending applications, et cetera. And then the next one is reviewed other applications and signed off on in Acela, which indicates that there are people that are putting their applications in using Acela that she's able to process entirely in Acela without having to bring them into the office. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah, I know from the health, for instance, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
They do some, they have to do some of it by paper, so it's not where it needs to be. And, each department, I gather is different, but when I read the Acela, I say, well, does that mean we've reached a milestone with Acela and a sign off to go forward? And so I wanted to confirm that.
We all set?
Yep.
Selectmen's report. First is the Board of Selectmen reorganization for 18-19. So I'll open it up for discussion. I'll start with Julie.
Wow.
Gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, we have a need to reorganize, obviously, and I think that it would be interesting to see what the overall rules are. I mean, I'm interested in, looking forward to next year and trying to prioritize, have my, thoughts about things should move forward, but
Do you want to recommend a slate, or does anyone here want to recommend? Ed?
Well, I'll make a motion for the chair of the board. I'd like to nominate Julie Kavanaugh be elected chair of the board for the coming year.
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, moved and seconded to elect Julie as chair. Any discussion?
Good. I just have a quick comment, and that
Thank you.
is, no, I very much, that probably didn't come out as positive I intended it to, but congratulations, Mike. My comment was that Michael's done a good job for 2 years, but I do think it's very beneficial to rotate the chair. You get a different feel for doing that, and so, rotating has nothing to say about good or bad in chairs. It's just, I think it makes us stronger if we have a different view each and rotate that. So I very much appreciate Julie stepping forward. and look forward to it.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Don?
Yeah, I want to make a motion, but I want to preface it first by saying that I agree with Larry, but there needs to be continuity, there needs to be some upward churn too, as we go along. Now, I know everybody's got different beliefs about what they would like to do. I'm trying to look at this as what the board needs and the governance, as well as what everybody's taken on as responsibilities and how we can broaden that outward. With that, there's no way of making everybody happy, but I'd like to make a motion to nominate Larry as the vice chair of the board and Ed as the clerk.
Second.
Moved and seconded to make Larry vice chair and Ed clerk. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody. I guess that leaves two positions.
Mr. Chair.
Which are not governance positions according to our rules of organization.
Okay. So if we don't need a motion on that, it's obvious.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations.
You guys are running the ship now, so.
All right.
Look out for
Anything
us.
else in the selectmen's report? Larry?
Well,
I-
actually,
What do you mean,
Hang on.
actually?
I think you have in the past actually appointed
it
people
says,
to the interview committee.
You could, but they can't be the same three, so
It-
I would
it-
make a motion that
Yeah.
Michael and I do the interview committee.
well, I'll make the motion. Rather than you having to nominate yourself.
I have no shame.
I know you don't.
None of us do. We're taking out papers to run for
Okay.
office.
But, you know,
And Ed, I'll second it. so-
Item D says, interview and appointment committee of the board. The board shall nominate and vote to appoint 2 members of the board to serve as the interview appointment.
So that's your motion?
Yeah.
Second.
So, yeah.
To have one?
Moved and seconded for Don and I to be the interview committee. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can I vote for me?
Thank you.
Yes, you can.
Selectmen's report. Larry?
Just two things. I had the opportunity to attend the rededication ceremony for Richard Rogers on Saturday morning. You know, Don was there. It was very moving. They, you know, I think for those of us of a certain age, and I won't pick on Don, I always do, but
The other Don.
came up as during the Vietnam times. Remember how politically charged that was and how unfair a lot of our service people, persons were treated. And have some remember from Harwich and stand beside several people that went to high school with him was exceptional. And in a self-serving way, I was also impressed that their main speaker was from Iowa, where I'm from. So
That was the impressive part.
that was the impressive part. So, yeah, I missed the Monday meeting. I was attended Chatham as the auxiliary, but it was a great weekend to dedicate those people that we owe much to. I also had a chance, I took the opportunity to visit the Kroll Barn on their open house on, when was that, Friday? And I was really impressed. You know, small, the barn we've had there for a bit, but they've put in a display now of pictures of Mr. Crow and some artists, and I highly recommend that people take the opportunity. It'll be open Thursday evenings to coincide with the farmers market and Saturday. You know, we keep looking for something to put in the Harwich Center. That I remember a comment. The problem with Harwich Center is no there there. But now with you know, all the baseball in the summer, and we have Brooks. But now we look at Brooks Academy. You know, Kroll Barn, the farmers market. That's become really a delightful corner of our world. And I'm hoping that we can continue that and take advantage of it. So another, you know, Harwich keeps doing good things, and another example.
Thank you, Larry. Julie?
Well, I just wanted to comment on the weekend. I had a nice fire permit for Red River Beach, and it was a beautiful night, even though I thought it was going to rain, it didn't. And the wind died down, so that was nice. I also wanted to just point out, you didn't made a comment on the weekly report, so I just want to thank Carolyn for all your hard work and your extra time with the Ragnar and the voting and the DPW for helping, you know, set up the booths, et cetera. We also saw that you are working with the Old South Meeting House on projects, and I think it'd be great to have a meeting there. I know it couldn't be recorded, but it'd be nice to have that opportunity. So I'm just throwing that out there. Great to see that the golf memberships are up over last year. And to the discussion that we had earlier about parking, driving around town trying to think of, where do we look? That's such an issue. So I hope we can collectively figure something out. So anyway, that's it. That's my report.
Thank you. Ed?
Nope.
Don?
I'm going to mention Ed. I went and did the proclamation on Monday, on Memorial Day, and for me, this is a kind of Norman Rockwell moment. I mean, we are fortunate to have that ceremony in the middle of town with a gazebo in a town square. I mean, it's just a lovely thought. Ed was there too. I thought Larry was going to come at some point, but and to Ed's point, to Larry's point about the rededication on Saturday, that's one of the saddest parts of living through that era is that not the partisanship, which people are seeing today and thinking they know about partisanship, but then you got to the point where people who went off to war, if you were thinking of a different point of view, were vilified for doing that. And some of those folks gave the ultimate sacrifice. It had nothing to do with the politics of the matter. They went. And even if you were against that, we had, as it's been said before, there were no parades, there were no nothing. People went and they came back, and it was just heartening to see people pulling together for rededicating that to a guy who had apparently such potential, died serving his country. So regardless of whatever you felt about the war itself, the people who did that were true patriots.
Thank you. All set?
Yep.
Okay, a motion to adjourn?
So
So moved.
So
We are
seconded.
adjourned.
I want to catch you on something.